Hi, welcome to Meet Lincoln. I'm Tamsin Silver, and I'm here today with Beau Lucas, and we are talking about people who live in Lincoln. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Tell me a little bit about how you ended up in Lincoln.
Wow. So, I think it goes back to about 2000. Me and Tiffany, my better half, we had come up here to just do a quick tour of the town. We're native New Mexicans, and we really enjoy our state, and we try to get out like every weekend and see a different part of the state when we can. And that weekend, the opportunity presented itself to come out here and tour what was the Wild West, so to speak. It's a town that is almost exactly the same as it was back in the 1800s, and we're kind of, amateur historians. We really enjoy the history of a place, and we kind of fell in love with it. We found out that we both have a little bit of history tied to the town. Her father, her great-grandfather, was a sheriff here. And so she ended up moving back here, or I should say moving up here, in about 2016. And we reconnected after being away from each other for about 13 years, and I decided Lincoln might be a good place to live too. So now I live about 374 feet away from Tiffany.
And I did an interview with her, so
yeah.
If you guys look on the page, you'll see there's an interview with an artist named Tiffany Owen, and that is her.
That's right.
What is your family connection to Lincoln?
So, as the story goes, Dudley, who was a colonel here, not a very likable character in the overall story of in the history of the Lincoln County Wars. We have a strong feeling that he might be the older brother to my great-great-grandfather and grandmother, Josephine Dudley and Ike Dudley, out of Alamogordo. My great-great-grandfather was a mounted police officer, and my great-great-grandmother was a school teacher down there. And if we go back in that time frame, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, there wasn't a whole lot of people living out here. So to have the name Dudley in that same period of time, we're not 100% sure, but we're pretty close to sure, because they both had military connections. We have a brother that we know was connected to this area, the Lincoln County area, but the genealogist in my family, who is neurotic about this, my aunt, is still doing the investigative work on it. But we're pretty sure that there's a connection there.
You've actually lived here for how long now?
This will be 3 years coming up in November.
Do you get involved with any of the events that go on here?
Oh, I in the past, before the whole scenario, yeah, I've been involved with Day of the Dead, Old Lincoln Days, a lot of the After Dark tours, a lot of the After Dark events at Fort Stanton. I work a lot with the kids' activities because of Tiffany's involvement, so I end up working with her a lot. I enjoy it. I enjoy working within a community and giving my time to it, and this is great because I get to learn a lot about the community and about the history of the community at the same time I'm volunteering, so yeah.
There's a lot of people who return to Lincoln. What do you think it is that brings people back to Lincoln?
Man, I think that's a good question. I could answer that a couple different ways, but I think the main reason is just its romantic appeal as being this outlying community that has so much historical nuance about the Wild West, and just how crazy things were back then, and how all of these different cultures kind of converged into this one area and tried to make a living, tried to make a life for their families. And it wasn't easy. It was hard. You were taking your life in your hands just to get out here, just to travel here. And then with all of the different factions of cultures, you had the Apache Indians, you had the Irish, you had the military, you had obviously the native indigenous Mexican culture, all trying to carve out a piece for themselves, and how they did it, and how a lot of them were able to integrate and work together. I think that's a really big romantic appeal.
I agree with you. I think that's a lot of it. I like the way that's put. And of course, I think some of that romantic feeling also revolves around why people are still. I'm writing about Billy the Kid in 2020, and the the Kid died in 1881.
Right.
I mean, and all the antics were in 1878. So, I mean, obviously, I can answer why I'm still interested, but I'm curious on what you think the fascination is with Billy the Kid, and why has it lasted this long?
Man, I think well, there's been hundreds of movies done about the guy,
Right.
And in a lot of different ways in terms of he was the good guy or the bad guy, was he the antagonist, and I think that appeals to a large genre of film enthusiasts. The westerns were one of the largest genres of film in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and
That's
you
true.
get people from Japan that come here, people from China, Germany, Holland, come up to us and say, I specifically came to the Americas because I do this once every so many years, and it's because something Billy the Kid stood for resonated in me. He was 14, 15 years old, and he did a lot of pretty memorable things, either good or bad, that really spoke to the freedom of the Wild West.
Because you actually know that Billy got in trouble back in Silver City. First time, he was with Sombrero Jack, and they actually robbed a laundry. And Sombrero Jack talked Billy into keeping all the stolen stuff in his room.
Oh, wow.
Because obviously Billy was not quite as smart yet at that time.
He was influential.
Yeah.
Easily influenced. Yeah.
Of course, they found it, and they wanted to put the fear of God in him. So they arrested him and put him in jail for the night. Their plan was to let him go in the morning and be like, you need to make better choices.
Right.
He didn't know this.
Right.
So he escaped, climbed up the chimney, and ran. And just ran forever until he died at Fort Sumner. That's that story where just if one thing changes, if he just waited till morning, would Lincoln still be here? For everyone who's watching, my dog is very involved right now with this.
Producer.
He's our producer. Hey, Caden. I'll wrap this up with the one question I've been asking everyone. Do you think Garrett killed Billy?
I think it's just a lot of fun to wonder. You know, that's one of the really wonderful things about the story overall, is that just being able to, you know, maybe pick a side and say, hey, what if? And there's the romance that we were talking about earlier. Me personally, I think he did. I think how all roads lead to Rome, all roads lead to Fort Sumner. I think it makes sense. I do. And again, I'm not as much of an historian as the rest, but from what I've heard from some pretty respectable people in the field, that the majority of them think that. So I'm going to say that Pat Garrett probably did.
Most everyone who I have interviewed agrees with that idea as well.
Yeah.
So it's not but it gets asked of me everywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm at a convention, doesn't matter if I'm just selling books.
Yeah.
They all are like, so
Right.
did Garrett kill Billy?
Right.
And I'm like, you know, do I go by my book and say, well, you know,
Right.
obviously my book is fiction, so I often say I believe he did.
Right.
But, you know, in the book he doesn't. But I have to come up with how we fix that, which is why book 3 I think will be so interesting. And as Beau already knows, there is a character based on him.
Oh yeah.
There is a character based on you in book 3. So everyone who is who decides to, when you read book 3 and when you get to that, you'll actually be able to be like, oh, now I know who that's based on. So thank you so much for meeting and letting me do this. Thank you all for tuning in to all of our Meet Lincoln series in celebration of the people who I've dedicated the book to, not just this town, but the people who make this town thrive, and who their love for Billy and for the history of the West is really what makes this whole place feel alive to this day. And so thank you again so much.
Well, on that note, too,
Oh yeah. Well,
I know that I speak for a lot of people where we say, you know, people who've been here 50 years, 100 years, and me 3 years. We appreciate your passion and love for this town, and the extent that you go to one, write about the town, but also you really support it in many, many, many ways, and your love affair for the town. And even though you may not live here, we definitely consider you a part of the community and a local. So thank you for everything you do for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. It's been Beau Lucas and
Don't forget Kate.
Caden. Take care out there, everyone.